Hi, welcome to Infusion Health, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. Self-Proclaimed Power Man. And I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey, guys.
Now, today we got an interesting show. We got Devin Brigham. And now, Devin's a personal trainer. She went to school for environmental studies, and she's going to talk to us about your health and about plants and about how to merge the two health and fitness world together. So I'm just going to bring on Devin. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
So you went to school for environmental studies and you work with plants. And what exactly do you do?
So I went to school for 4 years up at Bemidji State. I worked on an organic farm for 2 summers. I did a couple jobs in the environmental studies field, and then I moved in to working out at Lifetime.
Okay, so you said organic farm. What exactly is an organic farm for the listeners out there?
So our organic farm you have to get it regulated by the USDA to be technically certified organic. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of tests you have to go through. I didn't totally get to that point where it was totally organic, but no pesticides, no herbicides.
I was gonna say that there's no pesticides.
As natural as possible.
As natural as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this. This was years ago. I was watching a show, and they had these 2 brothers, and both of them farmed almonds, and one did a thing called plant mixing. We talked about that, where he would plant his almonds, but then he would plant these plants because they attract these bugs, mm-hmm. and then these bugs eat these bugs, and then it's
right. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there. It's like its own science. There's so many plants that work well together. Like there's different ways to farm, and I honestly, that's one of the things I want to do is have my own farm, and mm-hmm. it's just like experimenting.
How many acres?
The one I was working at was, I think we farmed off at least 5 acres. Okay. But to do that and do organic farming, you need a lot of people actually working to get the most out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not putting pesticides on there, and you're doing a constant regulation of the plants, right?
Right. And there's this thing called no-till farming.
Okay.
So the more you're bringing up the soil, the more it loses the organic matter mm-hmm. to it, mm-hmm. and the more the nutrition goes down. Mm-hmm. That's why you see nowadays that everything is so much lacking nutrition.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And why we need to take multivitamins, and because we're constantly overturning the soil. So what they do is they leave rows where they can walk on. They do it. There's different ways to do it, but they will take things. They'll stick it in the soil and they'll switch it around, uh-huh. but they won't actually overturn it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So the soil is staying stacked on top mm-hmm. and not actually being overturned.
And I find that interesting because a lot of people are like, well, I could go to Aldi's, I could go to Cub, I could go to Walmart and buy my produce and buy my fruits and stuff like that. And they don't understand why it's so expensive to go to our organic place. And I think your explanation just completely, because you're not mass producing stuff, right? And you're leaving room for you to walk, which in Walmart and all those other places, when they're, buying from the farmers and stuff like that, they're mass producing this.
Right.
So there's no room. That's why they have the big trucks and the big farm equipment and stuff like that, pulling all that stuff out of the ground.
Right.
Instead of you personally going in there and finding it.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing too, because I was looking at and I know the wildfires out there in California, and I know that's terrible, but then I said it's terrible, but then in a way it's a good way, because when you have that fire, that creates nitrogen, and that mm-hmm. really helps the soil for planting and stuff like that,
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different stuff, and it kind of blows my mind that not all the people know about it.
Yeah.
They don't. Not a lot of people nowadays have their own little gardens. I mean, it's getting more popular now, but
right, since COVID.
Since COVID, yeah, people it's not as hard as people think it to be.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly calming. I love doing it. It's working with the ground, with the plants. It's calming. I don't know if it's for everyone, but I mean, I suggest it.
Well, that was one of the things at the house, and I've said this before on the show. Me and Rach, I do most of the cooking in the house. But when I got older, I've been cooking since I was a kid. I was a very picky eater. So if I wanted to eat, I had to make my own. But one of the
Still a picky eater. That was a picky eater.
But one of the things I found out when I got older was I was like, oh, instead of buying this dried out, dehydrated, seasoning, I could get the real thing, and I put that in the food. I'm like, oh man, the flavors come. So now I'm a big like, where's the real basil? Where's the real oregano? Where's the real parsley?
There's a huge difference.
There's a funny story on how picky Chris is, okay? We went to Christmas. We were celebrating my past grandfather's birthday, and he ate nothing at that dinner. I knew he was going to eat nothing. I told him we were out in the country. You should probably eat something before you go to my uncle's. He's like, I'll find something there. He found nothing. So by the time we got back to Marshall, which was 30 minutes away, he's like praying for something to be open.
I love Hardee's and Marshall.
Oh, funny. No, the taste, like I can taste the difference between like farm grown or like homegrown vegetables, fruit, compared to the store. It's like a night and day difference. Mm-hmm. Like strawberries from the store, I love strawberries, but I can't get myself to.
I know exactly what you mean, and I wish my daughter. I wish when we buy produce at non-organic places that my daughter would wash off the fruits and stuff like that. And she's like, I like it. I'm like, you like tasting pesticides.
You always got to wash off your fruits and vegetables.
Right,
yeah.
Right. There is a thing out there where it's like the 10 top, have you guys seen it? The 10 top produce you should buy organic. I can't remember who it's by, but they tell you, if you're going to buy organic, buy these 10 because these are the most that have the most pesticides, herbicides on it.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you'll have to send that to me so I can put it in the show notes.
I will, yeah.
Yeah, definitely put those in the show. So how did you get to personal training?
So I was working out in Connecticut this fall, and I was an outdoor educator teaching kids about, outdoors and all that, biology, while working outdoors because I love doing that. But after it, I was like, well, I've always wanted, this has been a passion of mine because I grew up playing soccer and I played it in college for a little bit.
Sure.
And this lifting and I guess taking care of myself was my second sport. So I got into it, and then after I was done with soccer, I was like, well, I need to keep doing something.
Right.
So I got more into lifting, and I saw like the benefits it did for me and how soccer turned me into more like a health, like you're more cognizant about what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, how you're sleeping. So it really makes you focus on your health. And I saw how that changed how I felt and how I was as a person. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do it for other people. I love working with people, and I saw that people tend to care more than because they're actually starting to care about themselves.
Right. No, totally. I was actually thinking about when we were talking about this slightly before the show, about the people that think, New Year's resolution, I'm going to get into the gym.
Right.
And I think one of the barriers of starting that and then breaking, that New Year's resolution is now you've started doing good things for your body on the outside, you want to start doing it on the inside. And some people are like, do I want to make that extra dedication?
Right.
And the ones that do see even a bigger change in their body and how they move and how they function and just their energy level alone.
Right. It's a massive change, changing what you do for your body.
Well, that's one of the things with me. Like when I work out, when I started working out, you're working out, and then all of a sudden you get this body, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, how do I keep this? And then you realize that I can't eat pizzas and burgers every day. I gotta start. Instead of okay, I had a burger for lunch. Okay, well, if I had a burger or pizza for lunch, I better have a salad for dinner. You know, you start
Right.
being more aware of what you're eating and what you're putting in your body.
Right. And definitely as a athlete, I would eat so much food. And then after I was done, I was like, wait, I can't eat like this anymore. That's a lot of food. So it's definitely a transition. Definitely a transition.
I have a coworker that's becoming a bodybuilder, and she's just a tiny little thing, and she's got to put all these calories in her body. But I see some people saying, I got to put a bunch of calories in my body. Let me go eat the junk food. And she is making a conscious effort saying, okay, I'm going to eat the healthy food, but I got to eat more of it because of the calories.
Right.
Yeah, so you may want to go up to like 5 to 7 meals a day.
Yeah, it's hard to overeat when you're eating healthier. I actually have my own like health coach that helps me, and he's like, yeah, you're not eating enough food. I was like, well, I'm eating 3 meals a day. He's like, it's hard to eat enough food when you're eating the healthier foods that aren't full of those calories.
The junk.
And the junk.
So when a lot of people like me, I tried growing basil at home and didn't work, and then I had to look at some videos to go, okay, it needs more light. I was overwatering it. What do you suggest as far as growing vegetables and herbs in your house, like in your kitchen?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea because it's like a small thing you can do. Recommendations, I'd say make sure whatever you pot or something you have it in, it needs to be able to drain because the roots start to rot if there's not a way for the water to drain out of the soil. I think that's a big thing that often happens. And not putting it by a window where it gets sunlight majority of the day. So just finding the best spot in the house where that works.
What do you think of as far as buying like artificial lights?
I haven't ever really done any research on that. I currently am using them for some indoor vegetable plants. I'm starting for my garden right now.
But we also live in Minnesota.
Right, I know. So it's like...
I mean, you need to get I think natural is better.
Right.
But the lights are needed in places like Minnesota until you can get that natural light out there.
I agree.
And I think it's also important for people not to get frustrated when you're starting.
Right.
You know, and you can do one or two things. You can start slow.
That's kind of my problem. I got frustrated. Well, I didn't get frustrated, but it's like I just ain't got the time to work with it, with dealing with everything else.
Study what you're trying to grow so that you know that you're doing it in the best way before you start getting really frustrated and give it up.
Right. I would say, like, with anything, like, start small. You don't have to start with a massive garden. Like, with anything. This is like with changing all habits. You need to start small, one thing at a time. There's always another garden next year, so you can start small.
Yeah, I'm talking. Well, also too, you can start like you said, start small. You can get a little thing right there in your kitchen. You know, put some light on it.
Right, and sometimes some people don't have the time, but as you find time, or then you're able to gauge what you can plant and.
Yeah, because you know, looking at houses and stuff like that, I said I would love to have like, you know, take out the kitchen window and put that little extension in the back to where I could put plants there where the sun could hit it, you know. That way if I ever needed basil, I could just grab basil. Or, you know, we got a friend, she has that kind of small kind of greenhouse thing. Well, she grows her own CBD.
Oh, okay.
And I see these things like in the books and in the magazines. I said, oh man, it'd be cool to really put some like, you know, basil and oregano and all this other stuff in there. And that way I'd have it whenever I wanted, you know.
But I think it's something to be said for what New York is doing.
What are they doing?
They're starting to use the building itself, either the top or, you know, just the balconies and stuff like that, as being able to grow their own.
Right.
You know, even in a small space like New York, they're finding ways to build a garden.
Right. The urban gardening, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we even put you don't have to go find a little raised garden bed. We put it in with our flowers. We put like our peppers in the hottest area, and we put it right by the flowers, and that's good because it's surrounded then by pollinators. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with pollination too, because I think I read a story where they said like, if we lost bees, we'd only have like 7 years to live, So it's interesting when you look at the environment and you're like, all this stuff is connected, we can't go messing with this because this also affects us,
So don't hit the bees.
Right. Leave them alone. I know whenever I'm sitting down and there's a bee around me, I'll just like let it be. Yeah. One of my friends was like, "You're so brave." I'm like, "They're not going to do anything to me if you don't swat at them."
Yes. Well, the thing is I'm allergic to honey. And I have not gotten stung by a bee since then, but doctors are like, well, if you're allergic to honey, you might be allergic to bee. And I don't swat at the bees. I gradually get up and go away.
You sneak away. You tiptoe away.
Because I know there's a purpose for them.
Right.
Like they're not trying to attack me, right?
Right.
I just need to go away from them.
Right.
Well, that was the thing too when we first started dating, because she said she was allergic to honey, and I'm like, oh man, honey makes a great glaze. If you soak some chicken in there,
that sounds so good.
And just Minnesota honey for the people that live in Minnesota and have allergies. It's amazing. It's a natural for those allergy problems,
right?
And that's what I would say anywhere around the world. If you're having allergy problems, get honey from your environment.
I think that's so crazy, and I think that's so awesome. Like that's a thing, and I feel like not a lot of people know about that.
Yeah.
That's a natural way instead of using what's the allergy medicine?
Claritin.
Claritin. Yeah.
Eat some honey.
Well, the problem with honey is my kids bought some honey mustard. And he made me a sandwich.
Oh,
wasn't a pig.
I didn't read the label.
So since then, we've kind of watched out what we put in the house. Because I'm like, I don't want to accidentally break out from something.
Oh no!
Yeah,
was it bad?
Honey barbecue potato chips, anything with honey in it.
Well, it depends on my stress level, and I think there's something to be said about that too. When you're overly stressed, your body starts this hyperactive state, and all your allergies can be a whole lot worse during that time. When you bring yourself to a lower calming state, you'll still have the allergy, but the reaction might not be as strong.
Oh, that's interesting. I have not heard that before, but that makes sense. Anytime you're more stressed, a lot of things don't go as well.
So, yeah, that's what I've definitely found out. So when I'm at a lower state, I still have the allergy problems. My neck, my throat starts closing in, but I have more time to react when I'm not as stressed.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you got to do to get that organic label slapped on your product?
So the organic farm I worked on, it's actually harder than it should be because you have to. I can't remember what it was because they were a smaller organic farm. They just got up and running, and they had been certified organic by the USDA for a couple years, but they're like, at this point, we have our customers. They know what we're doing for our plants. They know we're not spraying, not using this. They know we care about the environment and that they want to produce good produce. Yeah. So they just stopped doing it. But I think there's a couple. It's a lot of paperwork, I was told.
Yeah.
And which kind of sucks.
Yes.
Right.
It really does. But I have to say that FDA is lined with money pockets instead of what's actually natural and better for our body.
Right.
And, that's just what I've personally seen.
Yeah.
Just so they don't come after me. But that's what I've personally seen. Our CBD farmer right now, she's like, I would love to talk to you guys on the podcast about THC versus CBD. Mm-hmm. But she's like, I have to go through all these regulations right now because they're starting to see profit in the CBD. So now her regulations and all that have gotten stronger,
Yeah.
tighter. So, and that's a lot with the organic farmer that I'm seeing too. A lot of people are more prone to start buying that organic food. So they're going to start
Right.
putting more paperwork and regulations and all this other fun stuff at it.
Lucky us.
And that is one of the things we've also said too on here lots of times is support the farmers markets.
Right. And it's an awesome way to get out into the community and get to know the people you're around, because I feel like that doesn't happen a lot these days.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, I went to the farmer's market and I bought some syrup. You know, like I said, I do most of the cooking, and when you get real maple syrup, it's like all
Night and day.
Yeah, all the chemical stuff and all that they sell at the store. You're like, forget this. You know?
The corn syrup, you mean?
Yeah. The cooked corn syrup.
Exactly.
Because that's not from trees.
My dad actually just buys the corn syrup
Okay.
to put on his pancakes.
Sure.
I thought it was so weird as a kid, but then I looked at the ingredients
Right.
I was like, we're eating the same thing.
For years, I was having maple syrup, and I'm like, Aunt Jemima, absolutely.
It's not maple syrup.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, when you find this stuff at the farmers markets and you put it and you're like, oh my God, like I said, you just don't want to go back to the regular stuff.
No.
Well, that's just the fruits and vegetables too. That's what you were saying. You can taste the difference.
You can. So I worked at a farm-to-table restaurant up in Bemidji. It's called Table for Seven. I would say it's the best restaurant in Minnesota. I might be biased because I worked there, but the food there was just amazing because she would get it from her garden, get it from local farmers around, and she'd get meat from different places. It was amazing. And it's cool to see that there's more of that popping up.
Yeah, farm to table restaurants are becoming a real big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the food is just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fresh. It's not going through the process and stuff like that.
Right.
It's fresh, and some people I've seen where they have these restaurants. They farm their own eggs, their own chickens, their own that, and it's literally like they said, farm to table.
Right. It's literally She has her own chickens. She has her own vegetable farm. She does, and then she raises her own pigs. So a lot of it comes from her own farm, and then she gets it in the area. But it's seasonal as well. So like whatever she has in the garden, she makes that menu for that next week. It's really cool because as the seasons go, you get different types of food.
Right. Yeah.
So cool.
Yes. And you have to build a whole menu according to that, so it's constantly changing.
It was a weekly thing. She would change it. It wouldn't always be like big changes, but it would be
And I think that's what true to be said, even in your own home. Change your menu up a little bit.
Right.
You know, add some, instead of adding pasta, add rice. Instead of doing this, do that. You know, instead of having asparagus, have broccoli. Like, change it up a little bit.
Right. Or even like do the seasonal thing. Yeah. Whatever is in season is going to taste better. You could taste the difference between strawberries in the summertime versus the wintertime. There's a difference.
Well, that's the thing with me, like with the cooking, is that, you know, when you have kids that just love Italian food, it's like, what do you want? Pizza, spaghetti, fettuccine Alfredo, chicken Parmesan. There was one time I said, okay, for the whole month, I'm not cooking any Italian food. Cook anything else. But it makes you want to keep trying new things, try and do things. It's like, okay, I've done this, I got to do this. And I even do that with my baking. It's like, okay, I've made cookies, I've made brownies, let's do something else.
Right. Change it up. Yeah.
My kids get so mad at me about my baking because I'm like, oh, that seasoning would taste good with that. And what if I made a chocolate carrot cake? Or what if I made a German chocolate cake this way? And they're like, Mom, you never write down the recipes. Like, you never write down your own recipes. So if it tasted amazing, we're never going to get it again.
Yeah, so mine, I have a experience opposite of that because I meal prep each week. So if I don't really taste the food which I should, taste it before I package it up. So I'm like, oh, so if I don't like this for the rest of the
week, I get to eat.
Yeah, I get to eat the same thing that I don't like.
Throw some
There's
pepper
been a-
on it. And
There's been a couple times where I'm like, gosh, dang it. I really wish I wouldn't have made this.
Not at this level, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Taste it
Jeez.
first.
Yeah, well, meal prepping, I know, especially when you're working out, you got that one day, and I used to like to do that, but the only thing with meal prepping is like I don't have the time to cook up everything and to put everything in the containers and all that, But it does, I did like it, but it's just time consuming.
Yeah, it is. I take like 3 or 4 hours every Sunday or Monday, and I just cook my meals for the week.
Well, I find it necessary for me because I have looked at how much I would spend on just snacking at my job, which is the hospital, just buying my daily coffee and maybe a treat at 7 o'clock before I go home. And it ended up being in a 2-week period about $100. And I'm like, oh my God, that was seriously stupid. Buy a larger lunch bag and throw your little goodies in there,
Right. Right.
and
This
find
for Monday,
other
this
ways
for
to bring the
Tuesday.
coffee to work.
Right.
So that you can start saving that money. Because if I would have added meals to that, I can't even imagine how much it would have been.
Right. I know that it does. It's a game changer when you start meal prepping, getting your own snacks. You're not spending that extra $100-$200 a week
Yes.
on food.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, like I've said, I try to cook mostly from scratch at home. And I remember our daughter, I said, what is this? And it was jarred Alfredo sauce. So she kept buying jarred Alfredo sauce. So I said, come here, I'm going to show you how to make it. So I showed her how to make it. A week later, she calls me up. She goes, what do I need for Alfredo sauce? I said, we usually buy the jarred stuff. She's like, I know, but I want to make my own. And it's real easy to make, but
Yeah.
And it tastes better.
It tastes way better.
Yeah.
but we're so prone to go, okay, hey, I'm going to make this. I'll go into the grocery store and I'll just buy the jarred stuff this, I'll buy the jarred stuff that, where it's like, we'll take the time. If you learn how to make it and find out how easy to make, it's not that difficult,
Right.
Except the only thing is now is that dairy, a lot of dairy is, the prices went up like, whoa.
Dairy and eggs. Dairy and eggs have definitely went up.
Yeah. Thankfully, we own our own laying chickens, so
Okay.
we get farm fresh eggs. They kind of go around, scatter around a bit our yard, scratch up our mulch, all that good stuff. But yeah, you taste the difference in the eggs too, and you see the difference too.
Yep.
Yeah, well, they haven't had that thing they do to make them white or whatever, that color.
Well, just the size difference is different. You can tell what doctored up chicken is versus your own chicken produces.
It was funny as kids. So there would sometimes be really big eggs. There would sometimes be really small eggs.
Sure.
So we get so excited, we crack them open on the like hot pan and be like, how many yolks are we going to get this time? We get so excited if there's 2 yolks in the big eggs.
Yeah, I would love that. Well, that's the thing too with when we talk about pesticides, because okay, the plane comes over and sprays the pesticides, it kills the bugs and all that, but then it gets into the soil. So then when you're retilling the soil, that stuff hasn't died out yet. So then that gets into the soil, and then that's kind of what's messing up the soil for. Well, you can talk more on that.
Yeah, so the soil has like a microbiome, and like I don't know the number, but I know that like if you grab the topsoil, there should be, for healthy soil, it's like millions of organisms in that small handful, and that's the pesticides, herbicides. They kill that biodiversity, and that's what makes the soil good, organic, break down that organic matter and turn it into nutrients for what we eat.
Yeah, and when you look at that, it's all a process of how the earth was made and how the earth is made to rejuvenate and to help you and to keep going. It's kind of a constant circle, but you
I think
can't
you
mess
found
with the
that
circle.
out most when you went down to visit my family, and you're like, "Weren't soybeans on the other side of the road last year?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but they have to. They have to put the soybeans on one side one year and put it on the
Right.
on the other side the next year, so the soil has time to rejuvenate."
Right. So it's crop rotation.
Yeah.
And two, the mono, I forget what it's called, monocrop how we're planting things in mass producing, like corn, soybeans, terrible for the soil.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot better now. They're able to rotate more. A lot of farmers are doing a lot of different things. It's moving in a direction. I don't know if it's the best,
right?
But we're going somewhere, which is cool to see.
Yeah, well, one of the things I thought was cool to see, and the pandemic was terrible, but when I went to the store to get yeast and stuff like that, I'm like, man, all this stuff is gone. And what I found out, and what happened was a ton of people like, okay, we're home now, we have to cook. And they were like, wait, I've been feeding this to my kids. So a lot of people have woken up to going, hey, wait a minute.
Well, I think it had to do with Grubhub and DoorDash were just starting around that time. And they they weren't able to catch up with, the need for people to have food. And then they were like, well, I have more time on my hand. I don't have to buy a frozen pizza. Because if you look at what food was doing during the pandemic, at the beginning, a lot of that pre-made food was leaving, but towards the end, it was your flours and sugars and your yeast and stuff like that was kind of leaving at that time too. So not just toilet paper.
Yeah. So, I agree. People had more time, and I don't know. I feel like that gets into too, like work-life balance, and as a society, being able to be home with our families, being able to cook for ourselves, and as I don't know, Americans, we don't do that well. We're always about work, and not about, hey, what about ourselves? How are we?
10 jobs.
Yeah, we got a workaholic on our hands over here.
Well, trying to get a business going,
Yeah, but that too is a topic in itself, is being able to do that and letting that stress go and being with family, cooking. It's just crazy.
Yep.
Well, Devin, this has been an interesting conversation. We could probably go on for another hour. I'll have Rach close us out. And if they want to find out more or get you for a personal trainer, what are some things you got a website or anything we can
I got an Instagram. It's called Fit by Devin. That's all I have right now.
Go ahead and send it to me. I'll throw it on the show notes.
Okay, yeah.
And Fit by Devin is FITBYDEVIN.
Yeah, there we go. With the I.
With I at Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, and then before we go, we're talking about our friend who grows her own CBD, and by the time this comes out, yesterday in Minnesota they just passed a bill, or really close to getting recreational marijuana, and we're so happy for that, and we're so happy for Bridget Pender, who's been a guest on our show.
Absolutely, absolutely. But also remember, when you're buying your food, your CBD, your essential oils, make sure that it's straight from the source. That's going to be the best health benefit for you. The stuff on Amazon and stuff, even in Wally and Target, and I've even seen it at pharmacies, do not give you the best of what you need. So make sure you're getting it straight from the source. All right. Well, it's come to a closing for you guys. I want to appreciate every single one of you that have reached out, and looking forward to more episodes for you guys. When you're cooking, think about what new things you can incorporate in your food. When you're starting growing, grow small, grow with education. Have a great one.
Take it easy.